Okay, so here we are inside of Unity. Um, it looks pretty scary, but I'm going to just give you a basic overview of what you can see here. So normally it tells you what unit version you're using. I'm using 6.2. You have two windows here, Scene and Game. Scene is where you make all the scenes for your game. And Game is basically where your game is played, and you'll be able to test it within the editor. We have hierarchy, so this shows you what's already in the scene. You have project, so this is all the assets that you have in the project. So you have your art, your sound, your scripts, anything that you need is saved in the assets section. By default, you get given the new input system and a renderer and some post-processing. This is advanced features that we're only going to obviously look at the input system, but everything else we're not going to use in this tutorial. How Unity works is basically a lot of game objects and physics engines and scripting. And everything that we do and have is going to be shown in the inspector. So if I click on this main camera here, the inspector will say what this specific object is, and it's a camera, and it has an audio listener on it, and it has a script on it. So that's kind of the overview of everything. What I like to do when you're starting a new project is just organizing some folders. So I like to keep everything organized. So I've got art. I like to know that we're going to have some sounds. These are all empty folders for now. We're going to need one for scripts. And we're going to need one for prefabs, so prefabricated game objects. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. And this scene that we're looking at now is a sample scene. So it's the first scene you come to, but it can be renamed. So it could be called the menu scene, because that's, we could say this is where we're going to go to all the mini games that we're going to make. And as you can see, there's absolutely nothing on the screen. If we press play, we won't see anything, but it's going to go from the scene view to the game view. And that's what we have here. Okay. Now you can change the display. You can make it 16:9 or the other way around, like portrait, whatever you want. You can have 3 aspects, so there's no, specific range. But this is used for testing. So let's try to do something very basic. Let's try and get something on the screen. So I'm going to go to Game Object, 2D Object, Sprites, and we're going to say Circle. Okay. So Circle has created a game object here called Circle. Now if we press, we save this, we press play, we should see the circle on the screen. And there it is. Okay. So that, sometimes I like to, this kind of shows you what's in the scene and what's in the game at the same time. You can move these windows around as much as you want. I like to have an overview of what I'm seeing. And this has a color property, and it has a sorting layer, which basically means does it show up above another object or not. It has a material. It can be flipped. You can change it. You can open the sprite editor and decide I only want to show one side of it, or whatever. So if we could even change the color, so we change the color to red, save it. We press play, and now the red ball should be on the screen. Lovely. So we can change this to red circle, duplicate it, and just call this circle. Change it back to white. And now what we can do, we can transform it by moving it on the x-axis or the y-axis. There's no z-axis because obviously it's 2D, but if you were in the 3D environment, you'd be able to move it on the z as well. So now, as you can see, we'll be able to see a red and a white. Red, white. Okay, so we've only got assets on the scene. They don't do anything. But for example, let's just remove that. And what we could do is use another thing that we need, which is the we're going to make a button on the screen. So that's, we have to import TMP essentials. That's just standard procedure. And what this is going to do is going to add a canvas to the screen, and we want to change this to 1920 by 1080. That's what I like to do. It just shows that sort of resolution no matter what. And there's a button. So we've got a button here. Now we want the button to show in the middle. So we'll hold the Alt key and in the middle. And the button is very, very small. Okay. So what we can do, we can use the rect tool and make it much bigger. And here we go, and we're going to say, we can change the text and say pop the fish, or bubble pop. Because that is going to be our first pop the bubbles. Okay, all right. So this is going to be our first game that we're going to make. We can make another button, and we can say match game. Make another button and move it down and say numbers, letters. Okay. You can see you can keep going and keep going. Now, obviously, this kind of gets a little bit tricky because obviously every time you add, you have to move down and do that. But there's actually a function in Unity that will make all of this a lot easier. So I can select all of these, right click and say create empty parent and make this the whole screen. So I'm alt click the whole thing. Then I'm going to add a, shall we do, let's do horizontal layout group. And I'm going to say control child width size. There we go. We have the padding. Actually, maybe we'll do, instead of that, let's try and do grid layout group. If it's column count, flexible. Okay, so now this whole thing is going to be, I'm going to add some padding. And we want each button to be 300 by 300. Maybe. So what we've done is we've added a grid layout group, and we said 3 by 200, spacing, flexible, middle center. And we've added 2 TextMeshPro texts, And now if we duplicate as many as we want, obviously we're not going to make that many, but each game, and we can just change this to whatever the game is. And this button we can hook up to go to a new menu, new scene. So basically all the games in Unity are made up of scenes. So this is our menu scene, so make sure we save this. And right now this is just mini games, and this is tiny chaos. Okay, so just like to organize my canvas here. So as you can see, all we have on the screen are the camera, something that lights the scene, the canvas, which brings in an event system, menu buttons, and these two texts. Okay, so if we take a look, press play, all we should see is these two and this button. Okay, now the button, you can kind of change the color when it's highlighted, the color when it's pressed, and when it's selected. Okay, so if I did that now, we're gonna say when it's pressed, it's red, when it's selected, it's black. Okay, so obviously it's a little bit, we just reset it back to how it was. But maybe when it's pressed, I want it to be a little bit darker color. When it's highlighted, maybe slightly darker. And when it's selected, it's fine. Okay. So we've actually created the basics of a menu for all the mini games. But as you can see, it's a little bit bland. So what we can do is import some assets to kind of liven up the scene a little bit. Okay, so we'll do that next.